AI has moved incredibly fast, from experimental to essential in IT. From your perspective, what's fundamentally changed in network operations and cybersecurity over the past few years?
AI is definitely not experimental anymore, and it's definitely a part of IT, and we're still at the early phases of what that means exactly. I've heard customers talk about having these sort of things come in from up high about go figure out some AI and see how it can reduce headcount. So it's a very real thing in today's world. In reality, there's a lot of hype for sure, but there's certain things that are already accelerating innovation and improving efficiency with IT, but it's also a big driver of complexity in IT today around the network and infrastructure. So the network infrastructure complexity and scale is only going up to support AI initiatives. Meanwhile, it's also a tool for hackers and attackers and providing the ability to attack our companies, our corporations faster. So what that looks like, for example, is vulnerabilities that used to be leveraged in weeks, maybe leveraged in hours or days today, leveraging AI, and by bad actors who aren't necessarily tech savvy, particularly tech savvy. So it's certainly a weapon in the hands of the bad actors, but it also has the ability to be a real value add for IT specifically if they think about a responsible way to use it. Not that thing that goes bump in the night and starts doing autonomous behavior, but really the thing that is a trusted advisor, a trusted intern for IT to massively improve its efficiency. So, in order to do that, you need to rethink resilience, trust, and automation in this new world and really be smart about where AI adds confidence and doesn't erode trust within your IT environment.
You've talked about AI being both an enabler and a disruptor. What does that dual role actually look like in real enterprise environments today?
Yes, and network operations and cybersecurity, AI has become both an enabler and disruptor. You're absolutely correct. And it accelerates innovation, but it also intensifies threats. It's not a question of if, but when business systems will be disruptive. And attackers use AI to exploit vulnerabilities in days, whereas it used to take months or years. And as network environments grow more complex, these attacks increase in volume and speed. In fact, thousands of CVEs are added each month, with over 48,000, I believe, just in 2025. And that's a big increase, almost a 20% increase from 2024. And this really underscores the urgency for automation and intelligence. So today, many network teams manually manage network CVEs, and that process is both challenging and insufficient. Network admins receive raw data each month, including thousands of CVEs, as well as data from CISA and device vendor sites. And all this data comes to them in different formats. So they sift through that to determine which CVEs are relevant to their environment, and they assess each CVE's impact on the organization. And from there, they prioritize based on the exploitation of active vulnerabilities. And then once all that's done, they finally begin making those OS updates and configuration changes that are needed. And on top of that, remember, this process is manual, so it's prone to errors, it's complex, it's time consuming, and it's clearly not helping network teams keep pace with these attackers who exploit vulnerabilities to gain network access and compromise systems and data. Now, the good news is at the same time, defenders can use AI to counter attackers' activities. And what that means is that AI empowers network admins by helping them detect anomalies faster, optimize resources, and focus on higher value remediation. AI can also provide contextual information about CVE severity. So instead of visiting all those various sites I was mentioning, to learn about the latest vulnerabilities, they can view a single unified source of truth for vulnerabilities across their entire network infrastructure. And on top of that, that content's been transformed into a standardized, easy to understand format to make quick and informed decisions. So the key thing here is that that dual nature of AI in enterprise environments is reshaping how organizations view network resilience, trust, and automation.
Attackers are using AI to move faster than ever. How has that changed the timeline for exploiting vulnerabilities, and what does that mean for network teams?
Network and security teams have to assume that any vulnerability will come under attack immediately. Proactive behaviors are key. That means having automation tools in place that make it easy and automatic to keep network devices up to date, configured, and validated for compliance. When CVEs are published, teams need the ability to update configuration or patch devices seamlessly without impacting the business. At this point, teams have to behave as though they're continuously under attack and behave accordingly.
On the defensive side, where are you seeing AI genuinely help teams work smarter instead of just faster?
That's a great question. And I would boil it down to twofold, right? So to help defenders, the thing AI is really good at is pattern recognition. It's really good at doing the same thing over and over again. And so being able to identify, hey, within this group of alerts, within this behavior that my users are doing, it's able to say that, hey, this is normal behavior. This alert looks exactly the same as the other ones. This behavior is pretty much the same thing we're seeing. And then pull out the anomalies that, hey, this is a needle that's in my haystack. And what happens is the AI then pulls that out, and the defender then can focus on that piece that it pulled out, on that anomaly, and really then identify what that risk is, whether that is in fact a true positive, and find that alert and take advantage of that to be able to pull out what's actually a risk and what's not. And then the second piece is around proactive considerations. And so this will help organizations reduce operational risk. And so the first is identifying gaps in hardening and vulnerability risk posture. And so to do that, what happens is the AI can look at what's the configuration on my device, what is the vulnerability risk there, what software versions do I have, what firmware versions on my devices, and then be able to identify, hey, this is an outdated version, this configuration is misconfigured, there's an opening in there for an attacker to get at, and be able to give you that insight to say, hey, this is something you need to look at. Historically, organizations have had to do that manually or use some sort of scanning tool, which is not uncommon. But where it can take it a step further is provide insights of how to remediate those vulnerabilities. And so, of course, for this to be effective, the large language model needs to have the correct inputs from the vendors and manufacturers of those devices and the software to say that these are the vulnerable conditions and these are the remediated conditions. And so AI can then give a very quick synopsis of hundreds, thousands of different vendors and say, these are the specific details of how to go ahead and remediate that device. And by the way, if I want to create an automation, I can then say, well, to automate this and to set that hardened state on the device, you need to do these configurations, and here's a script or here's an automation of how to go ahead and do that. Now, of course, being the experts, the defenders need to still make sure that what it's doing is accurate and you can trust the output. But it takes the time away from having to build it from scratch and then instead be able to just verify the output and then run it if required. And then lastly, one of the big things that's a big time suck for defenders is proving compliance and audits, especially if you're in a regulated industry. I know I worked at a bank for a long time, and we were getting audited every day. I think there's 4 or 5 different sets of audits. And so we had to constantly provide the data to those auditors. One thing AI can help with there is providing audit-ready reports or pulling the data that you need to report on. So that way you have the accurate data and you have the information for those auditors and save you a lot of time.